to the first edition of Chalk Talk for the 2022-23 Denver men's basketball season. My name is Tyler Maun, joined by the head coach of the Pioneers, Jeff Wulbrun. Coach, it's good to see you. I'm going to see you in like an hour at practice, but I get to see you here on Zoom today. It's like a throwback. How are you?
No, I'm doing great, Tyler. Thanks very much. Really excited about starting our season here in less than a week, and nice to be with you here today.
Can't wait to get it rolling. Pioneers tipping things off here in this 2022-23 season against the Idaho Vandals, coming up at 5 o'clock on November 7th. We are less than a week away from tip-off. I've gotten a chance to come down and check out practice a few times here in the lead into this season, and man, this is looking like a very fun group, Coach. Tell us about, the last few weeks as you've gotten into sort of the rhythm of actually preparing for a season with real practices and, real workouts and setting the identity of this team. How have things been?
Yeah, well, you brought up a great point there, and I would tell you the identity of the team is probably what I am most excited about, and not only the identity of the team, but the fact that we understand what the identity of the team is at this point in the season. Looking back a year ago, you had 9 new faces. You didn't know what to expect. First year together, you were implementing a system that was new to everybody, and now we have 7 new faces, but we were together for 8 weeks this summer. And then we took the foreign trip to France, where we not only had the 8 weeks, we had 10 additional practices. We had 3 games overseas. And, I got home and I thought to myself, I really have a pretty good understanding as to what I can expect from my individual players and what the strengths of our basketball team is. So back to your word there, which would grab my attention, Tyler, which is identity. And I think we have a very strong identity, and we have, I think, a very deep and a very strong front court. And we have had 30 practices and/or scrimmages since we've started here in late September, and we're shooting about 60% from 2, which is terrific. I told our team that's probably a top 10 mark in the league, or I'm sorry, in the country. And it's always good to know your identity. And your strengths and your deficiencies, and of course play to your strengths. So when the ball hits the paint, and maybe this is a familiar theme, but when the ball hits the paint, we are really good. We are really efficient. We had a scrimmage against another team over the weekend, and when the ball hit the paint, I think we shot 67% on those possessions. So like I say, we understand very early in the season, and I think that's a key to early season success. Know your identity, know your strengths, and play to your strengths early. And because of it, our shot selection has been very good. We've been playing with discipline on the offensive end, and I think we're ahead of the game from that standpoint.
Coach, you mentioned the new faces. There's from year to year, always going to be some turnover. And you guys said goodbye to some really key elements of last year's group who, helped you, I feel like, establish and stabilize what you wanted to do in year 1. And now moving into year 2, you got a lot of talent on this roster, and not just in the new faces, but in guys' second years. Tevin Smith has already grabbed a lot of highlights, I feel like, on a national scale, at least as far as Summit League hoops goes, for what he can do in season number 2. I know you'll be without Coben Porter, an injury suffered over the offseason, but Toko Tainama, what he did last year, and now taking a step forward into this season. Tell us about the progression of some of your returning guys, and then I'm going to ask you about some of the newcomers.
Yeah, we'll start with Tevin. And, very often you see a very significant jump for a player between his freshman and his sophomore year. And Tevin has had a good offseason. Tevin put on 10 pounds. Tevin is now 6'4", 200 pounds. He was a tough guard when we posted him up last year, and now at 200 pounds, even more so. But the things that made Tevin successful a year ago are the same things that make him such a targeted player. And a player who will be one of the better players in the league this year. Tevin he understands, he plays within himself, he takes good shots, he has a high basketball IQ, and he doesn't try to do anything that he can't do. I think you'll see a better 3-point shooter in Tevin this year. He is even better at attacking the paint off of ball screens or clear outs. He's so versatile. And you saw last year how many different ways we used him as we got deep in the league season. But he's great in ball screens. He's great attacking the paint. He is a terrific cutter off the ball, Tyler. And that's really you got to have a knack. It's an art. You have to set people up. And he's so good at that. And he had so many backdoor cuts last year for layups and dunks, and we'll continue to set up those situations. We'll continue to isolate him and clear out a side because he's so good in those situations. We'll continue to post him up, and just very, very, very versatile, and just makes such good decisions. You mentioned Coben Porter, and it's a real heartbreak. I feel terrible for the young man. He had such a good freshman year. He established himself as not only one of the best shooters in the Summit League, but clearly one of the best shooters in the country.
Yeah.
He was third in the country among freshmen and made threes last season. So my heart goes out to him, and met him for coffee this morning, and just he's handling it so well. He's attacking his rehab very aggressively, and tough break for the young man for sure, and for our basketball team. But Toko would be another returner. Toko had a great freshman season. He's added weight. He's playing close to 225 pounds now. He's just, Toko kind of found his way in the league play last year. His minutes, his numbers, his shooting percentage, everything skyrocketed in league. And of course, now he's going into this season with a year under his belt. He's a very good low post player. He's become a more consistent three-point shooter. He's a savvy and experienced defender. It's great to have retention, Tyler. It's great to have these guys coming back. They know the system. They know the expectations. They're great fits in the system. Pedro Lopez San Vicente is another player who's coming back. Pedro had a good offseason, added some weight, added some muscle. Pedro might be the best shooter and three-point shooter and passer among our bigs. So very good to have those four players returning. And of course, Giovanni Bickham gives us depth at the post position. An experienced player who's been here for 4 years. He'll be graduating this season. And unfortunately, another injury, Drake Muller, had an ACL injury just a week ago. So that will certainly impact the depth on our basketball team as well.
The injuries are always a tough factor to deal with going into and playing through any season. And one thing that you try to do is build the depth to be able to withstand or sustain your level of play and withstand those injuries. And coach, with a lot of the newcomers that you've brought in this year, I know there's a lot of excitement, not just from you guys, but from Pioneers fans, of what so many of these new players can do, whether it's some of your transfers, the freshmen that you've brought in, Justin Mullins, we've heard about over his time, finishing up his high school career and coming in for his freshman year. But give us a rundown from the transfer students that you've got and this freshman class. What excites you about this group?
Yeah, I think we accomplished all of our goals, and Tyler, we got done with last season, and I guess as you do with any team, or if you're the head of a company or the head coach of a basketball team, you do a lot of self-analysis, and you take a hard look at your organization, and you identify your deficiencies, and you would try to address them in the off season. And we've done that. I thought rebounding and defense and length and versatility were areas that we needed to address this offseason. I think we've done a great job in all areas. We didn't run as much last year as I would like to. And of course, the key to running is securing the rebounds to be able to close out defensive possessions and then, off and running. And we've really addressed our rebounding, specifically with Lucas Kasunas, who will join our front court along with Pedro and Toko. And Lucas is 6'10", 260 pounds. I don't think anyone in the league will be as strong as Lucas. 4 years under his belt, played at Stanford. I had the pleasure of coaching him for 3 seasons, recruited him, Lithuanian born, and he will join us for his grad season, and knows our system well, and has been a great fit. And boy, is he going to help us as a dominant low post player and rebounder. And again, sticking with the rebounding theme, Tyreek Corbett is a graduate transfer. Again, will be with us for this 1 year. He's the only player in college basketball who had two 2020 games a year ago, Tyler. He's an elite level offensive rebounder. Will really help us on the glass, on the offensive and defensive end. And just a very versatile scorer. He's very, very good at taking the ball off the bounce. He's able to beat taller, slower bigs that he'll face. He's really good in the open court. He can rebound the ball and take it and go. He's 6'7", and you might think maybe a little undersized to play big, but he has a 7-foot wingspan, and he's a big-time athlete. And we also felt we needed an above-the-rim threat. And Tyree sure is the definition of an above the rim threat. Our players, our guards are learning that they can throw it to the top of the backboard there, and he can go up and get them. So things that we all needed, and then of course the last thing, the length of versatility I brought up. And we had some small guards last year, and that hurt us defensively, I think, more than anything. And we've really addressed the length and the versatility, and we'll be able to do so many more things defensively this year. And I guess I can start with Justin Mullins, the freshman. Justin 6'6", probably has a wingspan of close to 6'10", high-level athlete, really, really skilled. And I think like Tevin a year ago, we're saying, man, with each passing month, and wait till the Summit League, he's going to be so much better than he is today. But he's an extremely versatile player. He's learning every day and just has such a huge upside. So your length and versatility with Justin at 6'6". We've added Ben Bowen, who's a 6'5" transfer, just a freshman. And he's a combo guard. Great length, great versatility. He can play both guard spots. 6'5". We've added Dan Mukuna, another freshman, who's a 6'8" guard. Again, length and versatility, and really help you do some different things defensively. Marko Lukic was the leading scorer at Arkansas Little Rock a year ago, Tyler, and he's a 6'7" wing player. So we have really targeted the areas, and I think we dotted all the boxes this year in our recruiting efforts. Staff did a wonderful job, and it's been real exciting to meld all these players together. And I guess the one thing I would tell you, we've been very careful, and we've been very, I guess it's systematic in our recruiting, that we wanted to build a strong foundation for future success. And I don't want to coach a different team every year. I want to have a program. And I think the key to that is that you lay a foundation with talented young players, and you continue to develop. So you take 4 freshmen last year, Tevin and Coben and Toko and Pedro, and now you add to that a young freshman class of Ben and Dan and Justin. And now you've laid a foundation of really talented young players with huge potential, and you've used the transfer portal effectively to address your needs. So I think that was a long-winded answer to your question, but I think it addresses, where we were with recruiting and where our program sits as of today.
Well, and I think you hit on something that's really fascinating, especially in the modern scope of college athletics, which is trying to coach and build a program and not just coach a different team from year to year. Because with the transfer portal, with athletes having the ability to move, there are a lot of programs out there where from year to year now, you've got 75, 80% turnover in a roster group. And for your guys, I mean, you've got your entire core back, and they are an exciting group. And they're exciting in a way that I feel like we haven't really seen at Denver in a long time, in that you're getting recognition from people outside of this campus who are noticing, like, man, they're putting something together there at Denver. I know, famously this week, ESPN.com labels your team as maybe the surprise pick in the Summit League. You've gotten some recognition from a lot of other sites as to just the recruiting class, the talent that you've brought in. Now, that's obviously different from coming in with a target on your back says, this is the conference favorite. We're
Yep.
expecting them in a tournament, all of that. But what does it feel like for your guys having a little bit of that recognition? I would think that that's somewhat of a carrot that you can dangle when you're an athlete and think, oh, we got to get to that point because this is fun.
Well, I guess more than anything, Tyler, it shows that we're making progress. And, certainly we've had a plan. We've shared that plan with the players who were in our program a year ago. We've shared that in our recruiting efforts to the new players in our program. And maybe even before the season starts, they can see that significant progress is being made. I love it, when you say people on campus or people in the Denver community who follow other sports maybe are noticing, that's certainly the goal. And we think that we're going to put a very good product on the floor. I'm extremely proud of the young men who represent our program in the character and the integrity. They're not only great ambassadors to our basketball program at Denver, but the university as a whole. And our last two grading quarters, we had a team GPA of 3.6 and 3.5. So these are kids that are great ambassadors for the university. We have a goal, and that's to compete for championships in the Summit League. And I think we're making significant progress in that direction. I hope you never know with regard to injuries, but we hope that we're in that situation this year. But it has been a well thought out plan, and I guess whatever accolades happen prior to the season are just an indication that other people are noticing you're on the right track. I told Tevin, who was picked as one of the top players in the Summit League, that's quite a compliment to him that as a sophomore, the media members and the opposing coaches in the league vote him as one of the top players, and that's a nice compliment. And while fifth place isn't our goal, it certainly represents progress, and at least you can see that you're maybe more than anything else, you're catching the respect of others, whether it be opponents or people who follow college basketball.
Yeah. Coach, it's less than a week to go now until tip off to start the season. But I want to go back to kind of the first time that you got a chance to see these guys on the floor taking on some different opponents. And that was, 6,000 miles away in France. And getting a chance to watch that experience from afar for you guys just seemed like it was incredible. And, one of my favorite things, and I can't remember who it was now that posted it. I want to say it was Giovanni Bickham, but somebody posted on social media, I'm in France right now for basketball. Like basketball can take you some amazing places. And
Right.
for these guys to have that experience of not just playing games, going out and seeing different opponents, but having the experiences that they had on that trip, what was that entire experience like for you guys as a team and for you as a head coach?
Yeah, it was billed as a trip of a lifetime to our players, and I think it certainly was that. It checked all the boxes from an educational standpoint. It was very impactful from a cultural standpoint as well. And then, of course, we've talked about the basketball advantages that it had. But I've been on several of these now, and the chemistry and the camaraderie that develops within the team when you take them overseas for a 10-day trip is really great to see. The friendships that blossom and develop and the closeness of the team. And that certainly happened on this trip. And, I mentioned the educational piece. One of the things that we did a lot of sightseeing on the trip, and that was part of the plan. We took the team to the Normandy beaches and I think really educated them on D-Day and what transpired that day, and the bravery of the young people that were part of that day in history. And the irony was that we had a group of 18 to 20-year-old young men who were getting ready to play a game on that trip and the next day. And, back on D-Day, it was a group of 18 to 22-year-old men who were making the ultimate sacrifice for their country. And it was extremely impactful to walking the cliffs among Omaha and Utah Beach. And the tour guides were great at painting a picture for us of what that day looked like and that period of time. And it was extremely impactful. And that's why when we say it was a trip of a lifetime, it certainly delivered. And, I think you'll have several donors watching this this Chalk Talk. And boy, I can't thank them enough. It was through our donor base that we raised the funds to make this trip. And wow, we can't thank them enough. It was a huge developmental piece in our players, not only on the court, but off the court. It was tremendous.
That's pretty incredible stuff. And you now get a chance to take this group into actual game action for the first time. I know you've had a couple of closed door scrimmages and you've gotten a chance to see your team, in what amounts to, sort of the dress rehearsal for this season. But we're 6 days away now from throwing the ball up and getting after it for the first time. And you'll get a chance to go against an Idaho team to open this non-conference season, and then follow it up with 2 more home games. So you're home for a little bit to start the season. And I know as this week goes along, we're recording on Tuesday the 1st, and you'll tip off on the 7th on Monday. You'll learn more about, and your team will learn more about Idaho. But looking at this first game, what stands out to you about the Vandals, and what do you want to see from your guys when that ball goes up on Monday?
Yep. We're going to play a team in Idaho that did a great job of recruiting in the offseason. We think we were very effective at addressing our needs. They were as well. They get several transfers from the portal, kids that averaged over 20 points a game at the NAIA or Division II level. They have a transfer from Karen Frank from Vanderbilt, who's a high-level player. When I was an assistant at Stanford, we looked at him, and they did an excellent job in the offseason addressing their needs. So they like to get up and down and push the pace. And I will tell you, I guess we have about 5 remaining practices before that game, and defensive transition is something that we'll be focused on. We like what we've done with our half-court defense, and we have to get teams to play against that, which means that we don't give up easy baskets in transition. So that's a focal point. I think you'll see our added length will really help us on the defensive end this year. I think we'll be much improved in that area. And the other thing, I really am a huge believer that early in the season, and I would say, maybe the first 7 games, if you understand what your identity is as a basketball team, and you can play with some discipline, and your shot selection is good, that spells success early in the season, because a lot of teams, especially nowadays with so many new players, are going through the feeling out process. We did it a year ago in our first 7 games, and our shot selection wasn't great. And you're trying to understand, and I think we've done that. And I hope when you see us on next Monday, you see a team that takes good shots. You see a team that plays with discipline. You see a team that plays to its strengths. You see a team that hammers the paint in their offense. And so I would say that, those are the things that I've seen in practice. And for us to be successful early in the season, we need to defend in the half court. I think we'll be good. And then we need to show discipline in what we do on the offensive end and play team ball, and I think you saw this last year with our team. We gave a great effort, I think, night in and night out. That's got to be part of your identity. And we also played unselfishly. And we all had one agenda, and that was to get the best shot for the team on every possession.
Well, it's going to be fun when we get out there on Monday to get the season underway. And Coach, I know you got to get ready for practice, and I'm going to head down there and hang out for practice today. So I'm going to let you
look forward to seeing you.
All right, Coach, wrapping up this first edition of Chalk Talk here in this 2022-23 season. Pioneers and the Idaho Vandals coming up on Monday, 5 o'clock. We'll be on our new radio home, FM Sports Radio 104.3, The Fan HD3, and TV coverage on Altitude 2. And Coach, thanks so much for the time. We'll see you down there later.
Great to be with you again, Tyler. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks, Coach.